Hi, guys, and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Kerry Decker, and I've been a pastor since 1976, and I'm also the founder of a ministry called Kaboom Summits. And what we do is that we help Christian ministries with their messaging and online events. And that's how I got acquainted with our guest here today, is through an event that she was a speaker at. And from our conversations that we've been engaging in since that time, is that we kind of came up with this idea of a fact-checked faith. And so on this edition of Fact-Checked Faith is that we will be taking a closer look at Islam and what it really teaches. And our expert guest has a lot of insight on this subject. Stay tuned. Laura Zifer Powell, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, great, great. Hey, so just give me the Cliff Notes version of it. Is that how did you get, why did you get so interested in Islam?
Yeah, it was not something that I set out to study long term or be involved in long term or anything like that. I actually, I think 15 years ago or so, maybe a little more, I served as a training and member care consultant for a ministry called Engineering Ministries International. I was asked to train up a team to move to the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
and so I spent some time in the Middle East preparing for that. I took a graduate course on Islam. I began reading the Quran and the Hadith and studying the life of Muhammad, and just kind of sharing that and processing that with this team. The team launched, and I thought, okay, great. What's the next topic I'm going to delve into? But what ended up happening over the years was that one uh, event after another, I was asked to be involved with Islam or ministry to Muslims, things like that. So I spent time in Greece helping with the refugee crisis in 2014, 2015, when Muslims were coming from Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq through Turkey over into Greece to get into the EU to escape from the atrocities happening at that time. I spent time in Afghanistan.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I spent time in Egypt and Jordan, and administering in the refugee community of Clarkston, Georgia, for about 5 years, and just a bunch of different opportunities like that were given to me. And
Wow.
I continued studying from the trusted Islamic sources throughout that time, as well as enjoying that personal interaction and ministry to Muslims. And so,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, eventually, Women in Apologetics, the president of Women in Apologetics, asked me if I was interested in coming on board as their Islam ministry specialist, and I wasn't even thinking about that when we met and had lunch. I just wanted, we just wanted to get to know each other better, and we had like a 2 hour lunch, and I again thought I had kind of left Islam behind when she asked me, "Hey, are you interested in interviewing to be our Islam ministry specialist?" I'm like, "Really, Islam again? Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah." So here I am.
There you go. Okay, I got to get a couple clarifications because I think that most people understand what the Quran is, but you also mentioned the term the Hadith. Now, help us to understand a little bit more about what that is.
Sure. Well, the Quran, most people I think are familiar with. That's the Muslims believe this to be their eternal holy book, but the Quran says multiple times to obey Muhammad, to follow Muhammad, to do what he says, that he is the uh, excellent pattern of conduct for Muslims, and Muslims are supposed to do what he did and live how he lived and follow his teachings and things like that. But Muhammad's life is not recorded in the Quran. And so
Mhm.
you cannot follow those commands. You cannot obey those commands or follow the teachings of the Quran without knowing about the life of Muhammad. And the hadith are multi-volume collections of the sayings, the traditions, the life, the actions of Muhammad.
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, then is that the Quran says essentially that Muhammad is the pattern for our conduct and the pattern for our lives, and so the Hadith is really an important religious authority
Mhm.
in the whole Islamic world. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
There will be a small percentage of Muslims who will um, deny that, but then they have no way of following the commands
Yeah.
to obey Muhammad and follow his example and things like that. So
Hmm.
but the majority of Muslims will acknowledge that the Hadith collections are very, very important,
Yeah.
and there are many of them, but there are many multi-volume collections, but there are some that are more trusted than
Hmm.
others. And so
Yeah.
the collection known as Sahih Bukhari is the most trusted. Sahih Muslim is the second most trusted, and there are about four others that
Yeah.
are considered um, uh, reliable, authentic, traceable back to Muhammad himself.
Yeah. So I guess that what that would the implication of that then is that it's not just enough to say somebody will say, "Oh, well, that's not what the Quran teaches," but if it's
Right.
in the Hadith,
Right. Exactly. My
yeah.
response would be, if that were true, my response would be, "That's right. That's not in the Quran. It's in the Hadith," and
Hmm.
that's and let's look at where it is so that you can see that it is identified as an authentic Hadith. I don't
Wow. Yeah.
quote so-called weak Hadith sayings
Hmm.
among my
Yeah.
Muslim friends. I don't even bother with those. So that if they question them, we can look them up. I can give them the references. They can look them up on their own and see that the references are considered authentic. The
Hmm.
sayings are considered authentic by the most trusted Islamic scholars.
Yeah. And so essentially, what we have here is that with the Quran and the Hadith, we have the basis of authority for Islamic religion and practice. Correct?
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, cool,
yeah.
cool. Hey, I want to shift gears here just for a moment, and before we had a chance to visit, that we talked a little bit about the war in Israel, the war that Israel is prosecuting against Hamas, and kind of the interesting intersection that we find with that here in America, with many progressives siding with Hamas. And you had an interesting perspective on that. And so maybe you can share with us a little bit about your understanding of this and how this intersection is important for not just Christian people, but anyone who is interested in better understanding what's going on in the world today to become informed about.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I mean, we know from the video footage that Hamas themselves recorded and shared worldwide that that Hamas and even civilians from Palestine killed babies, raped women, decapitated men while they were alive with gardening tools, and students were saying this, and students have been giving money to this. Students have been using their any influence they have to support the the annihilation of the Jews. And
Mm.
so a lot of people have been asking me, how is this even remotely possible? How do people think this way? And what we've seen as more and more interviews have been conducted, more polls have been done, is that a lot of this, most of this actually goes back to an ideology known as critical race theory. And so our young people in America have been taught that this competing worldview with Christianity, this
Hmm.
is actually true. And let me describe what critical race theory
Yeah,
says.
I was just going to ask you that question. So,
Right. So CRT for short, hold more polls have been done, is that a lot of this, most of this actually goes back to an ideology known as critical race theory. And so our young people in America have been taught the only way to get some of that wealth is to take it from others. So the only reason some groups, and remember, group your identity in a group, the
yeah.
group that you've been placed in is the most important thing about you, not what you've individually done or things like that. But some groups have been more successful than other groups, have more money, have more education, have more wealth because of theft and oppression. That's the of
Mhm.
others. That's the only way that groups do well. And so, they'll. It's not that they either don't know, haven't been taught, or reject what we've known from economics studies for for decades, if not centuries, that uh, people actually are able to succeed when they have incentives to innovate and to
Mhm.
work hard, when
Mhm.
they are able
Yeah.
to keep what they earn,
Yeah.
which goes back to a lot of times that exists in the world. And then, if someone has it, you have to take it from someone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have,
Yeah.
we have throughout most of the U.S., we have operated under a free market where a sale only takes place if both parties agree.
Hmm.
Told what we haven't until the last decade or two been told what we have to purchase.
Yeah.
um, without as kind of the good innocent victims. And
Hmm.
instead of directly attacking class and trying to divide people based on class, critical race theory and all these different critical theories, there's critical gender theory, which is the same idea. You're a victim if you're in a minority status group, like if you're gay, lesbian, transgender, etc. uh, but but instead of just directly going after class, critical theory goes after, and critical race theory, goes after your skin color, your ethnicity. I avoid using the word race because,
Hmm.
although I mean I suppose it could be helpful at times, but biblically we are one race, we are the human race,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really this really does just come down to skin color,
Yeah.
which there are who knows how many shades. But and the term race began to be used um, a couple hundred years ago by people who wanted to separate people
Yeah.
out and who wanted to have kind of a justification for dividing people
Hmm.
and practicing racism.
Yeah.
And so,
And also, in these folks essentially supporting Hamas
mhm,
and their work. And I want to kind of put a pin in that for a moment and come back to Hamas. But
sure.
when we were off camera a little bit ago, is that you mentioned a Harvard Harris poll that has come out. And tell us a little bit about college students' responses
Mhm.
to this particular poll that has come out. So, this Harvard Harris poll.
Sure. Yeah, and I believe that was a week ago today that came out, from the time of recording. And so people actually of all ages were asked, do you agree with the belief, the ideology that white people are oppressors, and the solution to dealing with their oppression is to discriminate against white people in the universities, in the workplace, um, in what opportunities you give to whom. And what they found was that among people ages 18 to 24, 79% said, yes, that is correct, that white people are oppressors, and the way to deal with that.
Based on skin color is a good thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Yes.
go ahead with
Yes.
the some of the other findings of this poll.
Sure. Yeah. And let's see. I can't remember if it was 64% or 67% said that, but about 2/3 said that Jews as a group, Jewish people, are oppressors, and likewise, similarly, they need to be put in their place, and they need to be refused opportunities and things like this as well. So, so when we see young people out, saying ridiculous things like gays for Palestine and things like this, I say it's ridiculous because
Yeah. Yeah.
if gay people were to actually move to Palestine and try to live outwardly as gay, they would be killed immediately. In the United
Hmm.
States, you're largely celebrated. These same students hate the United States. In fact, if they were to live in Israel, they would not face any sort of backlash by around. We need to go all over the world and find them and to get rid of them, annihilate them, end them. And so, if you could contribute in any way, I would really appreciate it. Do I have your support? And these students, well over 50% of them, said absolutely. He shared the exact numbers on the videos, but it was
Hmm.
over 50% said absolutely, yes, yes. Let's see, I'll give you what I have. I'm just a poor college student, but this is an important cause. So yeah, I mean, can I give you a 5, a 10, a 20? Can I volunteer with you? Things like this. Uh, Ami also separately, in a separate video at a separate time, went to university students and said that he's raising up support to train more Taliban in order to conquer America and do more attacks, carry out more attacks like 9/11. He said, clearly America did not learn their lesson from 9/11. So we need to do more. We need more 9/11s. We need to obliterate American interests wherever we find them all over the world. We need to attack America, and we're going to need money and moral support in order to carry this out. So, what do you think? Is this something?
The notion of violence in Islam. And so maybe you can talk about a little bit about Hamas and violence in Islam.
Sure. Yeah. So Hamas is a group who follow the Quran and the Hadith. They state openly that they their intention is to wipe out Israel, to uh, to take all of Israel for Palestine,
From the
and
river to the sea.
from the river to the sea.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And they uh, are gaining their ideology, their beliefs from the life of Muhammad. And so if you read the most trusted hadith sources, according to the
Hmm.
Islamic scholars, what you will find is a whole lot of Hamas and Hezbollah and Houthi type behavior, Muslim Brotherhood, on and on. I mean, um, there are well over 100. I don't know how many, but there may be several hundred groups like this, civilian attacking civilians, taking the women for themselves, doing horrific acts to them. Muhammad encouraged his men to go ahead and rape the women they captured as part of war.
Hmm.
Muhammad taught uh, that fighting is the absolute best thing in the whole world. He taught that he said that he loved it so much that he wished he could fight and be martyred over and over and over again. Okay, so think about that. Coming back to Earth, to here, and fighting and being killed while fighting is better than staying in paradise, according to Muhammad. Uh, he said that, and he said that straight up as well. He said that dying in battle is so great, it's the only thing that would make a man want to leave heaven or paradise.
Wow.
He said that a single act of fighting in jihad, in Allah's cause. That's funny. It kind of sounds like a lost cause. I didn't mean it to sound like that. Allah's cause, the cause of Allah, um,
Yeah.
is better. That's better. That fighting for Allah is better than anything in the world, and
Wow.
good deeds, and face the very likely prospect of hell. I'll also say really quickly, because whenever I mention hell in the
Hmm.
context of Islam, I think of Muhammad's teaching as well, that he was given a vision of hell by Allah, and what he saw was that most of the inhabitants of hell are women. So, for any women who may be watching, if you're a Muslim, if you have any Muslim friends, according to Muhammad, they will almost certainly be in hell because of their ungratefulness to their husbands. So, this is not a it's not a hopeful religion. It is a religion where if you want to have hope, you need to go out and kill Jews and Christians and polytheists wherever you can find them. This is a command. Go out and kill them wherever you can find them. And it's not only the teachings. I just mentioned several teachings of Muhammad,
Hmm.
but it's also his behavior. This is how he lived his life. He attacked unarmed Jews. He
Yeah.
set them on fire. He set.
And probably has done as deep of a dive as you have in
Mhm.
the sources of
Right.
um, of the Islamic religion, including the Quran and then the Hadith.
Right.
And so maybe we can schedule another time together, because I want to respect your time and also want to be able to give our viewers enough to kind of chew on for now, and maybe to want to come back and hear some more. What do you think about that?
I would love that. That's a great idea. Let's
That's
do it.
cool. So as you can see, that Laura knows her stuff when it comes to Islam, and we've created a website. She's very busy. She is currently working on her doctorate, and but she writes things from time to time that then I have put on a little website that I've created for her called islam.factcheckedfaith.com. And, I would encourage you to, not take my word for it and not take Laura's word for it, but investigate these matters for yourself and see whether or not what she says is true. Because we need to become informed